Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We have more participants who will be joining us, but thought we could get started because we have a knowledge-packed session for you all today. Just I think as we usually do, we introduce the speaker briefly, but before that, just setting some context about our webinar today. So our session on leveraging giving moments. We realize that there are a lot of festivals as well as giving moments that are going to come in the second half of this year, particularly. So we do have, in the Indian context, particularly Diwali, Dashera, and we also have other giving moments, largely we speak of globally in terms of Thanksgiving, Giving Tuesday Day and week, as well as Daan Utsav, which is coming in October. So we also timed this session in a way where you all could gain valuable insights from this session and then also practically apply it for the Daan Utsav week that's coming and certain other giving moments as well. So that's largely a brief context about why we wanted to conduct this session. And we just quickly also, as you all might know, most of you all would have registered for our session through our newly launched India Partner Network. So for all of those who are new, just a couple of lines on India Partner Network, and post this, we'll jump into our session. So we created this platform specifically for nonprofits, and we aim to have all of our events as well as resources that we usually share post the events through this platform. Login page looks something like this. You can register. We also have a couple of our upcoming sessions. Just have to click register now. We'll give you details and descriptions about our session. And the resources that we share as well. Today we have around 75 plus resources on the platform. So it would be great to have you all explore and give us feedback on whether you're finding it useful. But yeah, we'll share the link to our platform on the chat as well as put it up here. That's just about the India Partner Network. And jumping into our session today, I will briefly introduce our speaker, Kavita. Just a second. Hope you all can see my screen, or is it still loading?
Yes, we can see you.
The screen is loading though. It's there now.
Okay, so we have Kavita, Kavita Matthew. She is the partnerships advisor for Giving Tuesday India, the India Hub. Giving Tuesday, so just a couple of lines on Giving Tuesday as well. So it's a global generosity movement that unleashes the power of radical generosity around the world. So Kavita was formerly the India Partnerships Consultant for the world's first and largest nonprofit crowdfunding platform, Global Giving. And she helped Global Giving increase its reach and impact in India, drawing from her experiences of working with multiple nonprofits in the country. So before she discovered her passion for making the world a better place, Kavita spent a couple of years in investment banking with Goldman Sachs, where she found her love for spreadsheets and data. Then she earned her stripes at a community-led nonprofit called Dream a Dream in Bangalore, and she also later took to consulting to widen the impact of her work. Outside of work, Kavita is really interested and stimulated by playing fundraising consultant to nonprofits and being a sounding board to her startup stage entrepreneurial friends. Her passion for child rights also led her to complete a post-graduation in child rights law from NLU Bangalore. Kavita works remotely from Cochin, India. Very warm welcome to you, Kavita. Thank you so much for facilitating our session today. Just a couple of housekeeping rules before you can take over. So one, we are recording this session. So we will share the recording to this session with all the participants, as well as any additional resources that are part of this session. We'll attach it to the email that we usually send after the completion of the session. Since the crowd currently is fairly small, it would be good if you all can, and if you all have the bandwidth to switch on your videos. I think it will be more interactive and engaging for our speaker here as well. Yeah, just these couple of points. Over to you, Kavita.
Thank you so much, Ashwini. I'll just try sharing my screen. Oh. Let me know when you can see my screen. Has it loaded?
Yes, yes. Leveraging giving moments. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcome everyone. And Ashwini, thank you so much for that introduction. So I can skip a few slides as well. And today we're going to talk about leveraging giving moments. And some of you may be wondering what giving moments are. Some of you may already know what that is. And that's perfectly fine because we'll talk a little bit about what these are and how it's relevant for your work and the cause that you're working towards. And I'm going to skip a lot of the introduction, but essentially what Ashwini said is that Giving Tuesday is a global generosity movement, and I work as the India Partnerships Advisor for the movement here in India. And a lot of what I'm going to be sharing today is practical, real evidence and learning from 11 years of the movement and from 90 different countries. And to just give you a sense of the scale, right? The last year alone, the volume of giving that happened on Giving Tuesday, the day, which is a single day, was $3.1 billion in the US, and that's all to nonprofit charities. So a lot of the learnings that I'm going to share today are not my personal learnings, but learnings from the nonprofits around the world who have leveraged giving moments like Giving Tuesday. And I'll talk a little more about Giving Tuesday in a bit, but want to share that it's not a technology platform, and you don't need to register anywhere to participate in Giving Tuesday and be a part of Giving Tuesday. So I've been in the sector for about 12 years, primarily focusing on fundraising and volunteer management. And the last 6 years I spent as the India Partnerships Consultant for Global Giving, which is a global crowdfunding platform. So some of the learnings I'll be sharing today is also from my time at Global Giving and what I learned from the nonprofits who are part of the Global Giving network. And what's important to know is that, Giving Tuesday, the movement and the fundraising that happens on that single day is actually not from, the $3.1 billion that I said, it's actually not from large institutions or CSR or really large grants. It's actually small everyday givers who give somewhere between, say, $50 to $150. So everyday givers who are engaged and excited to be a part of civil society in whatever ways possible. So it's a lot about how do you engage your community and the community around you in the cause that you work on. So we'll go over what giving moments are, but I'll spend a lot of the time today with all of you just getting ready for upcoming giving moments. So it's very practical. We'll set some goals together, go through the planning, what to think about when you're creating an online page if you want to use online fundraising. Then we'll do a network mapping exercise. We'll do some crafting of how to do your asks and just some very, very basic things on planning your communication. We'll also talk a little bit about tips on leveraging giving moments towards the end. But I just want to say, let's keep this as interactive as possible so you learn and you gain as much as you want to. So please put in any questions you have and comments you have in the chat box. I may not see it while I'm going through the presentation, but I'll keep stopping in between and taking your questions. And then at the end, we'll also keep some time for questions. I hope that works for everyone. Okay, great. So then what are giving moments? Giving moments are usually a moment in time when people are inspired and are primed to do an act of generosity. And as nonprofits, we can, and I'm sure all of you are already doing a lot to create giving moments for our potential and current supporters at different times of the year, right? It's a moment when people are inspired to actually take that action and do an act of generosity. But when we come together to create a giving moment, we like to call them shared giving moments or shared giving days. And what research at Giving Tuesday shows is that giving moments are a lot more effective when people come together or are encouraged to come together to do good as a collective. And there are, of course, so many different reasons for this. We don't really like drawing parallels with the commercial world because that limits the transformative effect of giving moments. But just for ease of understanding, let's draw a quick parallel. Now, the parallel to giving moments in the retail industry would be sale season, right? That's end of season sale, Black Friday sales, Independence Day sale, Diwali sales. The list is basically endless. The corporate world has understood the power of these moments and have really capitalized on them using the concept of sales. And you would have experienced how the noise around sales is amplified because all the major brands come together at the same time and say the same thing. Come and shop, everything's on sale. And they've realized that instead of doing sales at different times of the year, their amplified voice is actually bringing more benefit to each of their individual businesses at a lesser effort. Can you think of some moments that as a nonprofit sector we have created? Are there any versions of these moments that as a sector we've created anywhere in the world? If you can think of anything, just put it into the chat box. We'll go over that as well. Yeah, Daan Utsav is a good example. Diwali Mela, okay. Okay, just keep putting anything that comes into your mind. But when we're giving people this experience of coming together as a community, they actually feel a sense of solidarity, like they're part of something larger than themselves. And we can do several things to create shared giving moments, right? To inspire interest in supporting your organization as well as the sector overall. But what's great, like, two of you put into the chat box, is that some fantastic giving moments already exist. And some of them have actually grown into giving movements. And all we really need to do is join hands and leverage and amplify the volume on giving that is already anyway happening during that time. So you can see on the screen here, the data shows giving moments like Giving Tuesday actually inspire people to give. And a lot of people give because they want to be part of a bigger group that is doing good. Now, if you look at this year's calendar, you'll see that there are actually several giving moments packed up next to each other, right? There's Daan Utsav celebrated between 2nd to 8th of October, World Child Day on October 11th, World Food Day on October 16th, Dasara on 24th, Diwali on November 12th, World Kindness Day on November 13th, and then there's Giving Tuesday on November 28th. These are some upcoming giving moments we could find, but I'm sure if we dig deeper, we'll find many more. And this festive season is actually very interesting because it has multiple giving moments that are naturally already falling next to each other. And you can pick and choose the giving moments that make the most sense for you and for your organization. And giving moments that make sense for your organization could even be outside of these 2 months. But I just wanted to show this slide to give you an idea of what these giving moments are and what some upcoming moments are in India. Now, the best way to leverage these giving moments is ideally to do it together because our amplified voice at the same time every year will have a special power to it. Now, Giving Tuesday is celebrated on the 28th of November globally, and it's a global generosity movement. I said it's celebrated in 90 countries around the world, right? It's a day when millions of people around the world engage in acts of generosity. It started off as a single day. However, today it has grown into a year-long movement of generosity. And a lot, like I said, a lot of what I'll be sharing today is based on learnings from leaders as well as nonprofits who have basically participated in Giving Tuesday and made Giving Tuesday what it is today. Though these learnings are from Giving Tuesday, they're actually applicable to any giving moment that you and your organization may choose to leverage. And data shows the power of giving moments like these. This is a slide from 2020. And you can see that Giving Tuesday, the day is one of the three days that people are actively looking to give to new organizations. So here you'll see the percentage of new donor acquisition with spikes. Giving Tuesday now is an activation that happened for COVID in 2020. And a lot of this data is obviously from the US because that's where the data collection and analysis is more robust. But what does this really tell us? It tells us that people are yearning for collective giving moments and to use that sense of urgency so that they can feel like they're part of creating systemic change together with immediate calls to action. So giving moments like Giving Tuesday are actually an amazing opportunity to reach new donors, particularly everyday givers, who can become an army for your cause as long as you foster those relationships. So for nonprofits, giving moments can also be a moment in time to experiment. Last year, we learned that about 82% of participating organizations actually used Giving Tuesday to experiment or try something new. And it could be a new message. It could be a new campaign. It could be a new audience that you want to reach out to, a new fundraising idea. It can be anything new that you're trying. So it's actually a great opportunity to try something new with a lot of nonprofits around the world, trying something new at the same time. So we'll spend a few minutes on what we've seen working with giving moments and what we've learned. Yeah. So one of the things that we've learned is that generous people are generous, which means people who've given once, especially to your organization, will give again. You just need to make the right ask and at the right time. The other piece that's really important is that supporters want multiple ways to give, not just giving of money, right? People who give in one form also tend to mostly give in other forms. So you can see on this little pie graph here that people who only give money are actually the smallest group. People who give in one form usually also give in other forms. People, especially millennials and Gen Z, want engagement with your organization, engagement with a cause, as opposed to a one-time transaction. So these are some like really important things to keep in mind when you are crafting your fundraising ask, your resource mobilization asks, etc. So at Giving Tuesday, we do a lot of data work, a lot of collection of information from nonprofits, from donors. And in a recent donor survey, we found out that people are more tied to the cause than to the organization. Again, something to keep in mind when we are crafting our narrative and our stories. Right? People want to feel like they are contributing towards a cause and contributing towards a solution. Another interesting thing is that 77% of the people that we asked actually said they give with their heart rather than their heads. So again, something else to think about in our language and our narrative. The other piece is that givers need clear calls to action and simple ways to participate, but ideally in more ways than one, just to honor the fact that there are so many assets and so many ways in which a person can give and be engaged with your organization. So if you want to build long-term relationships with your donors, offer them different ways to support the cause and join you. Now, giving moments have also become pretty competitive, right? With many nonprofits that are fighting to receive their piece of the pie on that single day or that week, however long that giving moment is for. Now, there's actually an economic term for this phenomenon. It's called the fixed pie fallacy. That's the idea that there's only a certain amount of wealth to go around and that you must compete to get your share of what's believed to be a finite resource. But generosity is actually not finite. And neither is money, which we use to measure it. I don't know how many of you have read the How India Gives report last year. According to that report, the total quantum of giving by households alone in India, that's between October 2020 and September 2021, was 23.7 thousand crores. And the main reason why people said they did not give was because they were not asked. So really believing in this fixed pie fallacy actually hurts the sector and also goes against principles upon which movements like Giving Tuesday was founded. So an abundance mindset is important and it sounds fancy and nice, but beyond that feeling of that warm, fuzzy feeling around abundance mindset, it actually might set the stage for a healthier and more equitable and more financially robust sector. And we're actually at a unique ripe moment in time for a lot of iteration, disruption, adaptation in the way we do resource mobilization as a sector. And there are many practical ways to practice abundance mindset. And I'm happy to share like a link with a lot of resources. Like a couple of things to think about is how can we partner with other organizations to co-fundraise together. I'll send over the link to an article which has a lot of ideas. I'll send it over to the Satwa team and they'll share it with you as well. So you can take a look at it. All right. With that, we'll get into the more practical side of things, right? Today, we are going to work on how you can plan and leverage upcoming giving moments using a resource mobilization campaign. And as fundraisers, your individual giving strategy might be year-long. And that makes total sense. However, if you are looking at leveraging giving moments, one of the most effective ways to do this is to run a campaign. And you don't have to think of something elaborate and complex and highly produced when you think of the word campaign. A campaign just means you are raising a very specific amount of money for a very specific purpose. And it has a very clear goal with a start date and an end date. And campaigns are a great way to engage with your community because it has a clear goal, clear call to action, and spans across a specific period of time, right? It's also able to kind of evoke emotional response amongst the community. And most campaigns also have a deadline, which creates a sense of urgency. And running a campaign can be a lot of work, but if done well, it's also very effective to help you mobilize the resources that you need. And the most important step is to take the time to plan and to set your goal. So if you want to run a resource mobilization campaign or leverage an upcoming giving moment in the next 2 to 4 months, you need to start planning now. And what our research shows is that campaigns that have a goal and a plan of action actually have a higher likelihood of success than those that don't. So the first step in this process is to set your goals. So I have a question for you. If you were creating a resource mobilization campaign, or you want to leverage this festive season that's coming up, or one giving moment that's coming up, what would you set as your goal? What would your goal be? Can I see some goals in the chat box? Don't think too much about it. Just put down what your goals might be if you were going to leverage a giving moment that's coming up. Anybody? You can also unmute and speak if that's easier. Reach new donors. Okay, thanks, Mika. Increase engagement with our crowdfunding. Set up a computer lab for our learners. Great. Anything else? You'll take one or two more. I mean, you can keep putting it in the chat box. We'll all learn from each other. First year, I will focus on popularizing my org. Okay. Okay. Great. So these are all great examples of broad goals for your campaign, right? Now let's try and convert these broad goals that you've put into the chat box. Some of you may not have put into the chat box. You may have it in your mind. That's also fine. Let's try and convert them into SMART goals. And I'm sure most of you have already heard about SMART goals. SMART goals help in making sure your goal is specific, measurable, aspirational, relevant, and time-bound. Specific here means the goal has to have something specific that it's trying to achieve. So it can't be just raising money or getting new donors. The question would be how much money and for what will help making the goal a lot more specific. Measurable, because unless a goal is measurable, you will not know whether you've reached it or not. And you'll also need a number or an indicator attached to your goal so that at specific milestones through the campaign, you know how well you are doing. And at the end of the campaign, you can measure and see, okay, did I reach my goal? Was this campaign even worth it? What did I learn from my campaign? And I can plan better for my next campaign. Aspirational, I would say you need the goals to be realistic for your team. However, it should also be exciting enough for your team to feel like they want to be a part of it, right? So aspirational but realistic is always exciting for people to be a part of. Relevant. So is the goal relevant for your project and for your community? Make the goal something that's easy for your community to relate to. And relevant really depends on your organization and your organization's bandwidth and the work that you're doing. The next is time bound. Always have a deadline for your campaign. This actually helps create a sense of urgency and push people to take action as opposed to a goal that has no deadline. And when you're leveraging a giving moment, the giving moment already has a deadline. So that's a great way to kind of tie in your campaign with a giving moment's artificial deadline. Now let's take one goal that I don't know if any of you put raise more money for our project in the goal, but somebody put reach new donors. Right? So say your goal is raise more money for your project. How do you convert this into a SMART goal? To make the goal specific, let's say that 5 lakh rupees, just for example's sake, is used to purchase 200 chairs for a classroom. Right? So the goal is already measurable, which is great. And if you are able to raise 5 lakhs and purchase 200 chairs, you know your campaign was a success. But is this goal aspirational? Does it feel too easy? Or does it excite you and your team, maybe even to keep you up at night, right? This is something for each person to decide for themselves. Now let's make the goal also time bound. So raise 5 lakh rupees to purchase 200 chairs for the classroom by December 31st. This creates that sense of urgency and helps members of your community know that they need to actually take action soon. There's a second example also put in here, which is a SMART goal. Engage our volunteers to raise 10 lakh rupees. Oh, sorry. From 100 donors between October 1st and the 28th of November, 2023. So those are both ways in which you can think of converting your broad goal into SMART goal. So whatever it is that your goal is, can I make it specific, measurable, aspirational, relevant, and time-bound is something for you to think about. Okay. Now, I'm still waiting for the day when we can all post our fundraising appeals on the internet, go to sleep, wake up the next day with a whole lot of new donations and donors. Unfortunately, we are not there yet, right? So planning is still very key to a successful campaign. And like one of the second most important things to do for your campaign is to plan, and we'll get into that, right? But just to remember that your goal does not necessarily have to be around raising money. It can be a lot more. It can be very different from just raising money. It can be getting new volunteers. It can be just improving your skills in online fundraising. Somebody said popularizing your organization. It can be to increase your individual supporter base. Your goal can be something that has nothing to do with money as well. So I've put in some examples of broad goals here and how they can be converted into SMART goals, how you can create some actions around those goals, how to reach those goals, and how we will kind of measure the success of those goals. So I'll share the slide deck as well with you. So you have this as just a reference, but this is some way to think about different types of goals for your campaign. Now, going back to, actually, let's hold off on planning and go into SMART goals. I'll just take 2-3 minutes. We'll give 2-3 minutes to everyone. Just take a piece of paper or open a Word document and just write down your broad goal and convert it into a SMART goal. If you don't want to write the broad goal, go straight into your SMART goal, because that will really help as we go into step 2, 3, and 4. So let's take 2-3 minutes. Just take a piece of paper or open a Word doc on your computer and just write down your SMART goal. And then if you're feeling inspired, please share it in the chat box so we can all learn from each other as well. I'll also request maybe 1 or 2 volunteers to unmute and share your SMART goal with us. Okay, let's take 1 or 2 minutes. Whenever you're ready, just put it into the chat box or unmute and share. The more you engage, the more you learn. So I hope people will not be shy and actually engage and share. We all have so much to learn from each other. I'd love to hear from you. Anybody got a SMART goal? Okay, Hamad, raise 4.5 lakhs by 31st December to provide free eye surgeries to 1,000 patients. Brilliant. Anybody else wants to share? Do you need more time, or are you feeling okay? Okay, whenever you're ready, keep putting it into the chat box. We'll keep going and then we can come up. There's one more. Let's see what that is. Raise 5 lakhs for football equipment for 200 youth in 3 locations by 31st December. Brilliant. Super. So like I said, right, I'm still waiting for that day when, we don't have to do too much planning. We just put up our appeal on the internet and donors come in and make donations, but we're not there yet. So planning is still very, very key. And it's actually the second most important thing to do when you're thinking about preparing for a upcoming giving moment. And we ideally need to start planning now so that you have enough time for, if you are looking at leveraging the October-November season. All right, so I'm hoping a lot of you have your SMART goals in place. Even if you've not shared it, it's fine. As long as you have it and it's helpful for you, that's great. When you're thinking about your SMART goals and when you're trying to start the planning of your campaign, one of the things that you can do is to create sub-goals. You don't have to do this. This is just a tip that you can think about to make your work a little easier. So take that SMART goal. Say let's take the SMART goal of raising 10 lakh rupees to buy 200 shares, right? If we were to break that into sub-goals, I've done that here. It's a little more than 10 lakhs just to give us some buffer. But I would do something like raise 3 lakhs from 5 HNI donors, raise 3 lakhs from diaspora donors. That's, basically people of Indian origin living outside of India on Giving Tuesday the day. Or I would say raise 2 lakhs by converting my 1,000 rupee donors into 2,000 rupee donors, requesting them to basically up their donation this year. Or I would raise 5 lakhs from 5 advocates, each of them raising 1 lakh. Or maybe I want to experiment with social media. So I say 50,000 from first-time donors through social media, keeping that target a little lower because I'm experimenting with it. Now, when you break that bigger 10 lakh goal, your goal might be even larger than that, right? When you take that goal and break it down into these sub-goals, it actually becomes a lot more chewable and easier to digest and easier to plan. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes to see if you'd like to take your main goal and see how you can convert it into 2 to 3 or 4 to 5 sub-goals. We won't go into the full activity, but I'd really encourage you when you go back to your work to think about the sub-goals, what actions you might undertake to reach each of those sub-goals, when you would do these activities, what's the internal deadline, and who in your team would support you in doing that. So you can see the grid here also has those. So you can copy this if it's helpful for you. And you can use this to kind of think through the sub-goals activity, person's response, and timeline, which is very important. So let's take 5 minutes to just at least make that grid so we can go into the next step. Anybody has any questions at this point?
I have one question.
Sure. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name's Austin. I'm from the Kurum Foundation. We're a Delhi NCR-based arts-led education organization. So,
hi,
thanks for conducting this. This is very helpful. One question I had was, we received like conflicting information from other webinars that we've been part of, where we've basically been told not to spam on social media. So if we're doing, I saw one of the sub goals was like a daily post, and then I'm also think that you'd mentioned there. So I'm just wondering how do you strike the balance between obviously needing to reach out to potential donors and not kind of becoming a bother in a way? I mean, I also think the same way when we're sending out our MailChimp sort of mailers and everything. What's that balance look like?
Great question, Austin. And there's a lot that I can share on this, and there's lots of resources on the Giving Tuesday website as well on this topic. But the most non-invasive way of reaching out to donors is actually social media. If you're sending a WhatsApp message every single day, that might be a bit too much. But if it's on Instagram or Facebook, and it all depends on whether it's practical for you or not. Do you have the bandwidth to actually do this? And is it going to get you the returns that you want? Or are you just doing this to experiment and see if it's working for you? So really, Instagram and Facebook are pretty non-intrusive in that sense. However, WhatsApp is the most intrusive. Phone calls would be intrusive. So I would say strike a balance between intrusive versus non-intrusive. And the other piece is that I'll talk about this at the end as well, but on an average, and this is actually from MailChimp, I believe the data is from MailChimp. So it's an average individual has about 5 to 7 non-profit newsletters that it's subscribed to. That's it. But they've subscribed to like a million other marketing products, services, etc. Right? So it's 5 to 7 non-profits. And even for general marketing, it takes like 21 touch points to convert someone. And in many cases, our emails get lost in somebody's inbox and they're probably not seeing it. So if you're running a campaign, which is very time bound, I don't think it's spamming. But if you're doing it every single day for the full year, that might feel like spamming. I would say use the campaign. If you have a specific goal around raising funds, then use the campaign to raise funds and use the rest of the year to engage with that person in non-financial ways. So don't ask for money the entire year, but engage with them in other ways. Just say thank you on other days. Sorry, it's a long answer to your question, but honestly, Instagram and Facebook are the most non-intrusive ways to engage. But I would say it's different for different organizations. So you can also test and see what works best for you. I hope that answered your question in some way, Austin. Oh, okay.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
All right. So we'll just go ahead, and I'm hoping that you have kind of thought through your sub goals and activities, etc. And again, these sub goals that I shared here, you don't have to consider this as Bible. This is just a sample. And it's just to show you an idea of how you can create sub goals and activities. You don't have to do the activities that are put in here. This is just a reference and a template for you to kind of look at as reference. All right. So then once we have the sub goals and the activities and the team that's going to be able to help you out, we move into this third step, which is getting your story straight, right? And taking your campaign to the world. Now, can you guess how much time a potential donor spends on a fundraising campaign page before moving to the next page or going further or deciding to make a donation to you? Anybody? You can unmute or put into the chat box. How much time do you think a donor spends before they actually like move? Look at your own behavior on social media. 1 minute, okay? Less than 30 seconds. Yeah. It's getting shorter and shorter as you think of your own behavior. 3 seconds. Okay. Okay, yeah, you're close. So it's 4.2 seconds, and this is data based from Global Giving's fundraising pages. It could be different on different pages, but it's giving you a good average. And this is something to keep in mind when you're creating your online presence and your online page as well, right? That's the attention span of people these days. And always think about your own behavior whenever you're kind of thinking about the audience as well. And just to say that when you're running a campaign, you can do it on your own website, right? You can absolutely do it on your own website. You can have a fundraising page or whatever it is that you're asking for, whether it's getting new volunteers, you can do it on your own website. You can use social media and email to kind of amplify that. Or you can leverage a platform that already exists, which may have some additional features that you can leverage instead of creating it on your own. So if your campaign is about getting new volunteers to give their time, talent, you can even consider like talking to like a volunteer management organization, which may be able to help you, or you can simply do it on your own website. There are so many different options, right? Now, once you put all of the information on, say, a fundraising page, it would look something like this. And it would look slightly different depending on the platform that you're using. But what I wanted to highlight here was that the project title is the first thing that anybody will see about your project. And this will determine whether they keep reading and continue to stay to donate. So it's important that you have a project title that actually reflects the work that you do. So keep it short, clear, but also descriptive. And this is also what gets pulled up on Google when people are using keywords on search engines in Google. So basically your title should ideally convey 4 things. Who is your project helping? In this case, it's village children. That's what's written here. Who is your project helping? Second is, how are you benefiting them? Here it's providing education. Third is, how many people is this particular project helping? In this case, it's 40. And fourth question is, where is your project based? Here it says Bodh Gaya, right? So try and think about how you can answer these 4 questions in the title because that will really convey the work that you're doing in a very, very short, crisp manner. So people don't have to read long emails or really lengthy summaries and project pages, because a lot of people actually don't read a lot. Now, similarly, you can look at this example from Give. It seems to, again, answer all the required questions except one. What is that one question that you think needs to be answered here, that you may want to know more about before you actually make a donation? Anyone? What could be missing here? What do you feel like is missing here?
Where is it happening?
Where? Yeah. I mean, as a donor, I would think of where is this happening, because that actually makes a difference in my mind as an individual. So these are like 4 simple things to keep in mind when you are, yes, great, Arvind, location. These are some 4 simple questions that you can keep in mind when you are thinking of how to create your project title. Because remember, that's the first thing that a person sees. Now, the next thing that a person might see is your photo, right? The main photo and the other photos in the project page. Now, photos grab the attention of potential donors and basically help them understand your organization, the work that you're doing, and the community that you're serving. So a couple of things to keep in mind is try and have positive, empowering images. What I've seen is, I mean, again, data shows, I don't know if this works for everyone. Again, experiment and see. But when I was at Global Giving, what we saw is that images of single person making eye contact tends to work better, but that may not be the case always. We've seen more clicks on those images. And one thing I would say is, before you put up an image, and I'm sure all of you follow this already, is think about positive, empowering images, and think about putting yourself in the shoes of that person in that image and see, would I like to be portrayed in this manner on the internet? So that's like an ethical check I always do in my mind before I put up a picture is, am I okay to be portrayed like this? And I think that'll really help you say whether this is a good image to use on. Then the next piece is, of course, the project summary. And then, think about the challenge, solution, long-term impact, all short, crisp passages, because this is not a grant proposal. It's just a page on the internet and you're trying to reach everyday givers who may not even know anything about the social sector. Now, many fundraising platforms will have different templates, so you can stick to those templates as well. But the most important piece is the summary. Like I said, a lot of people will see the title, the image, the summary, and won't read beyond that. So that summary is very, very important. And what you need to try and answer in the summary are the things that you answered in the title. That's who you're helping, where you're doing it, what and how you're doing it, and the why. Why is important when you're thinking about the summary. There's an example here. This is from an organization called Seva Mandir. And their project is to provide support and rehabilitation, counseling services, legal aid, medical and psychological care, and a lot more to women suffering from violence and harassment in rural India, especially Udaipur. Now, this summary actually answers all of the questions, right? Who, where, what, and how, and the why. It's actually starting with the why. And it's so crisp, it's so short that most people will be able to read through it really quickly. Now, I think beyond these practical things, it's about putting yourself in the shoes of the donor also, who doesn't know anything about your organization, anything about the work that you're doing, or they don't even have the same passion that you may have at this point of time. Put yourself in those shoes, in that person's shoe when you're basically writing it out. Now, on most platforms, if you've already written a project page or a fundraising page like this, you may be able to edit it at any point. So if you have a page already, just consider going back and checking if the summary answers these questions. And if you're starting from scratch, these are some good points to keep in mind as well. Okay. Now that we've got our fundraising page or volunteer request page, depending on what it is that you're running your campaign for, the next step is to really map out your network. And a common misconception about community-based resource mobilization or crowdfunding is that a crowd will come and join you. But that's actually not the case. It's about getting your crowd to work for you. How can you use the network that you have to expand outwards and reach new networks? And we'll talk a little bit about that and do some activity as well. Has anyone seen this image or know where it's from? Yes, Ahmad, I see you unmuted.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. This is a very, very old image. That's probably why you've not seen it. So it's actually from LinkedIn. LinkedIn used to have an interesting feature where you can make a network map of all your contacts. And how it works is basically it assigns colors based on how those people are related to you. So, pink would be your school friends, or blue could be your college friends. So they are all basically interconnected. And you see like how different colors represent different networks that you're a part of. So LinkedIn doesn't have this anymore, but we can take this as an inspiration when we're thinking about our network and our organization's network. And what's interesting to note is that everyone's network will look different, right? Even if we are from the same organization, our network will look different because our personal networks are so much more. So the first step to mapping your network is identifying who is in your network, who is in your crowd. And when you begin this process, you'll quickly realize that you belong to a lot of different networks, both formal and informal. And your network is actually bigger than you think. So can someone tell me, we can start with the closest ones. Can someone tell me who is in your network? Who is in your crowd? You can put it into the chat box or unmute. Who is in your crowd? Who is in your network? As an individual, as a person. Anybody? Nobody has anybody in their networks? Who do you think is in your network? Do you have friends, family members? Okay, I see them coming in the chat box now. Great. Friends, volunteers, friends and family, my family, neighbors, colleagues, relatives, colleagues. Super. Yeah. So your friends, your family, all great answers in the chat box. They are all part of your immediate network, right? But when you think when you're not actually strategically thinking about it. So let's think about your organization's network. There could be board members who are part of your network, local business owners, and I'm not talking about MNCs. I'm talking about that bakery shop right next to your office, that shoe shop which is right next to your project location, maybe Istriwala who is near one of the field locations. They're all people who are part of your network. Then you can think about diaspora communities. So Indians living outside of India, if you do have FCRA, that's also part of your network, right? Leaders in the sector, alumni from your program, religious institutions in your locality, they are all part of your network. And one of the simple ways in which I like to think about our network is in the form of these in the form of these concentric circles, right? Your first circle is basically your primary group. And those are people that you can reach out to personally today, and it wouldn't be strange. So you can reach out to them on WhatsApp or a call. So it's your friends, your current staff, maybe your current board members, volunteers, former employees, corporate supporters. All of them are in your first primary network. They're already in your middle circle. Then there's a secondary circle outside of that. These are people you could reach out to, but it may need a slightly formal or introduction or a reintroduction, maybe through your primary network, right? So secondary network, you can reach out to, but you're not connected to them right now. The tertiary network is people that you should or could know that could be beneficial for the campaign that you're running or for your organization overall, but it might need a larger introduction, or maybe you need to host a networking event, or you need to ask somebody who can connect you there who's not in your secondary network at the moment. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and this is just to give you a sense of how to think about your network when you start mapping out your network. This is another way to think about your network map. You can use grids. This is a freely available version on the Global Giving website. You can go in and download it from there as well if you're interested in using this format. But when you start creating your network map, don't focus only on people who can be donors, right? Not everyone in your network or crowd will be a donor, and that is totally okay. Your goal with the network map exercise is to just put down a full list of people in your network, and then we'll see what each person can give or how each person wants to give, because everyone has something that they can offer to you, your organization, or at least to your campaign. And when you think of what people can offer, you can use what we call at Giving Tuesday the 4 T's of giving. Right? People can give their time, talent, or expertise. That's basically things or money, or their voice through testimony. And then there's also people who can give you contacts. For example, maybe a person in your network is part of an HR network and can make connections for you. Or a person who has influence, right? Like a CEO of a company that you're connected to, or a local government body representative, or a social media influencer who actually has influence and can support you in your campaign through influence. Any questions at this point? I'll go into an activity if nobody has any questions. But if you have questions, we can take it now. Any questions? Okay, super. So take out a piece of paper. That would work best. But if not, you can do it on a Word doc as well. And let me tell you, this seems like a silly exercise, but it's actually a super powerful exercise. This is something that, when I was at Global Giving, we used to do it every 6 months. There are so many organizations who've reached out to me like 6 years later who said that network mapping exercise that we did during the workshop is something that we've still continued to do even today, and it's been super helpful. So just try it out, see if it's working for you. And this is just to give you a small brief of how to do the activity. Obviously, when you go back to your desk, you can do it take a lot more time and do it. So to start off, the first step is to just identify 5 networks to which you or your organization belongs. Oh, sorry, there's a typo here. It's to which you belong, not below. Okay, so just identify 5 networks. It can be, I am part of my school alumni network. My organization is part of a network of nonprofits. My organization is part of the Give network. It can be any network that you are a part of or your organization is a part of. If it's easier, you can start off with you, because that will give you a sense of how to do the activity, and then you can do it for your organization later as well. So identify 5 networks to which you belong. Just write it down. I'm part of the Rotary Club, or I am part of the first corporate that I worked for before I moved into the nonprofit sector. I'm part of that alumni network. So it can be anything. Then once you've done this, for those of you who finish the first step, you can go into the next step, and we'll take some time as well, is write down names of just 5 members in each of these networks. Names of 5 real people in each of these networks. This is for you. You don't have to share it with anyone. This is your personal working document. So 5 networks to which you belong, and then under each network, names of 5 members. And whenever you're done, if you can just say done in chat, that'll give me a sense of how many people have finished. I'll also show you, like, this is an example of how your network map could look. You can literally look however you choose for it to look. You can visualize it in any way. It doesn't have to have a specific. Done. Oh, great. Super. Anybody needs more time? Okay. So if you've not finished it, just keep that paper with you. We'll come back to this. But definitely do it once you finish the workshop or on Monday as well. Okay. When we talk about fundraising or resource mobilization of any kind, we always talk about givers, right? People who can give. And something that I learned a few years ago was that when we look at our network, we should also be looking for another category of people. These are our potential getters. Right? Getters may also be givers, but more importantly, they are people who can be advocates for your project. And you could call them fundraising advocates, fundraising champions, volunteer fundraisers, etc. You can call them anything you want. But typically speaking, your inner circle of getters will be much smaller than your larger circle of potential givers. And these are people who can go out and fundraise or get new givers for your organization and do it on your behalf. And what data shows even till date is that peer-to-peer fundraising is actually one of the best strategies to access new donors. And again, in the, referencing the How India Gives report by CSIP, critical sources of information for giving to non-religious organizations, that's basically, organizations that work in the development sector, it remains in-person outreach by volunteers or agents, which is 37%, and word from family and friends, 20%. So that just shows that people still give to people, and that peer-to-peer giving and accessing getters from your network and encouraging them to fundraise on your behalf is actually still a very powerful way to access new donors. Now, giving people different ways to engage with you and join you is very important. And we spoke about this earlier, right? Everybody has something to give, but it may not always be money. So how do you, as the resource mobilizer for your organization, or when you're running a campaign to leverage a giving moment, how do you think of different ways in which I can engage with my community as opposed to only asking for money? And this might be something that answers your question, Austin, as well. If you're posting every single day on Instagram saying, give money, give money, give money, give money, that's definitely spamming. That's too much. And people will unfollow you. But think of other ways in which you can engage with your audience, maybe on a daily basis or whatever frequency that works best for your organization, right? You have to meet givers where they are, and that will really help moving people from making just a transaction with you, making a donation and then leaving your organization, to actually having a transformative relationship with your organization. So offering people many ways to engage with your organization will actually move them along this relationship ladder from just being aware about your organization to actually turn to giving and then becoming advocates for your organization. Has anyone here used fundraising advocates, volunteers, requested them to fundraise on your behalf or do resource mobilization on your behalf? If you haven't, also, that's perfectly fine, because it's a great strategy to experiment and try out. Okay, great. So getters, you can call them anything you want. Getters, just for ease of understanding, could actually come from anywhere, right? And it could include your staff members, it could include volunteers, current donors, board members, your mother, really anyone on your network map who feels passionately about your mission. So there are people who join you as a part of your core team just during the period of your campaign, not for the whole year, not as a formal part of your organization, but during that campaign, whether it's for a day or a month or a week, they join you to bring that campaign to life. Now, an ideal getter or a fundraising champion will have a large network ideally and have some time to commit to you, because this will take some time. And it can be a single day, it can be a week. And the most important thing is should be passionate about your cause, right? And should be able to tell the story of your cause or have some personal connect with that cause, be able to tell that story to the outside world. Age of the person really doesn't matter. We've seen like 7-year-old fundraising champions to 70-year-old fundraising champions. And with technology, location also doesn't matter. They don't have to be in the same location that your organization is in. They can literally be anywhere in the world. So then if your fundraising advocates or champions or getters are getting you all the givers, what is your job as the resource mobilizer for your organization or as the founder of your organization? Your job is basically to support these getters and provide them with the tools that they need to be able to go and get you new givers, right? So they will need advance notice. There will be a trust building exercise that you need to do with them. They will need some pre-prepared communication that they can use, some templates that they can easily use. And another thing to think about is actually helping them set smart goals. So you guys set smart goals for yourself first, and then get all your getters also to sit together and set smart goals for themselves or separately, individually. And then even maybe guide the getters through an individual network mapping process. That'll help them really think through, okay, these are the people in my network, and this is how I can really reach out to them for different things. So once your fundraising starts, you can even check in with your fundraising team, that's your getters team, have a daily call with them or a weekly call with them, or have an email thread or a WhatsApp group. So there's some sort of accountability and support system only during the time of the campaign. I'm not saying do this every day of the year. And the last piece is to say thank you and invite them to, in your cause in a much more meaningful way.
Sorry, Kavita, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm like, imagine if I'm a small organization which has fewer resources, like I have one fundraising person who's also doing other stuff. How would you suggest I prioritize between getting donors, so like directly engaging with donors, and getting getters, right? Like, so where should I invest my time if I'm just one person? Is it more useful for me to get other people who can help me? Or should I just go out and try and get more donors?
Yeah, great question. And I think this second exercise, which is a continuation of the first exercise, will kind of answer that question. But essentially, you look at your goal, right? What is your goal for this campaign? And are you going to be able to reach that goal with firstly, the current donor list that you have? Are you able to engage them to get to that goal? If not, how are you going to access new donors? Do you have another strategy to reach new donors? Do you want to experiment with a new strategy? One of the best strategies we've seen work over and over again is having fundraising advocates who do this for you during specific periods. Again, I'm specifying that it's for that campaign period. So again, think through, where does it make sense for me as a fundraiser to invest my time for this campaign? Is it to access new donors? Do I have the bandwidth for that? Do I have a strategy for that? If not, let me look at my network map and see if there are 5 or 4 or 3 advocates I can identify and then nurture.
And so, actually, getters are also in a way donors, right? Because they're donating their time, they're donating their voice, they're donating other things to your cause. It's not just money. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's why that ladder is also important, because you're thinking about how do you take that individual in your community or the community that you're building, how do you take them from awareness to a giver to an actual evangelist or getter for you. And yes, being a fundraising advocate is a really high form of giving as well, because they're giving their time, resources, contacts, influence, all of that. Anybody else?
Here,
yes,
actually, getter is a person you spend time on engaging or getting a person to become a getter to champion a cause, because their credibility is higher than yours. That's why you need a getter. It's not just a foot soldier. So if you can get 100%. Someone to champion your cause, and he is very well known in the society or community, you can have multiplier effect. So therefore, this is where you invest your time is first. You require someone who is credible, more credible than you, to help you out, to get a wider reach. That's one of the objectives of getting getters.
Yeah. And credibility also depends on your network, right? You are credible in your network. So person is credible within their network. So you don't have to I completely agree with you, Ram, but just don't fixate to that credibility point, or that person has to be more credible than me, because that person will be more credible than you in their own network, and you will be more credible than that person in your network. So it's true, if you find someone with a higher level of influence, it will be much easier work, because they'll be able to help you access a lot more new donors than a person who doesn't have that influence. But just saying that you can actually get anybody to be your fundraising advocate, including a 7-year-old. So that credibility factor also depends on your credibility with your own networks. Just wanted to add that as well. But great point. Thanks for adding that, Ram. Okay, so let's go back to that sheet that we have, which had 5 networks and 5 individuals. So if you've done that already, ideally you would have 25 people on that sheet of paper right now. And if we spend more time doing this, you would know that, while you are doing the activity as well, I'm sure you felt that you can add a lot more names in a lot more networks. And if you spend more time, you will probably have a lot more names on that list. But because we're just experimenting with this activity at the moment, I said 5 networks, 5 people. So you have 25 people on that list. Now, the next step is to kind of go through that list and think of what is it that this person can give for my campaign? Or what do you think that person wants to give? How do you think this person wants to engage with your cause? So just think about, just go through that list and see, okay, this person I know can give money, but can also give contacts. This person I know has a lot of free time right now, but can also give things. So one person may be able to give more than one thing. One person may be only able to give one, which is fine. And this is your perception at the moment of how that person wants to engage with your cause. So just at what I would encourage you to do is next to the person's name, just write down what do you think that they want to give and how do you think they contribute towards your campaign or your cause and be a part of your community? Is it by giving time? So then maybe you can write TI next to that person's name. Is it talent? So TA, maybe they have like some expertise. Maybe there's a graphic designer, a photographer, someone who's a musician who can host a concert for you during the campaign. It can be anything, right? Your imagination can really run wild with this. So talent, you can maybe write TA. Then testimony, that's voice, a person who wants to give their voice and talk about your cause because there was someone who wants to popularize their organization. Is there someone who can give testimony and raise awareness about your work? So that person would be TE. Then things, you can write TH, then money, M, influence, I, contact, C, whatever works for you, just so that you have a sense of, okay, this is probably how this person wants to engage with me, because that will influence how you communicate with that person. And we'll get to that as the next step. So just take 5 minutes to do this. And for those of you who've done it already, also look at that 25 people list and see if you are able to identify 5 getters. Fundraising advocates, getters, champions, ambassadors. So from the 25, maybe 3 to 5 people. Even if you get 3, it's great. Are you able to identify 3 people that you can then go and ask to become getters for you for the period of that campaign? Okay, and whenever you're done, if you can put into the chat box, we can move forward. Okay, great. We'll just spend 2 more minutes. And I want to say, when you spend more time doing this, obviously your list will be much longer and larger, and try and put it into a digital format if possible. You don't want to lose that. And the other thing to think about doing is getting your full team together, right? Not just the fundraising team of your organization. I'm talking about your whole team, your board, if there are some volunteers, and getting everybody to do this activity. And think about how large your network will be if you get everybody to just take 30 minutes. Let's sit down and do this activity together. And you can guide them through the steps the way I did, right? Identify 5 networks, 5 members, assign qualities. And I mean, they don't even have to identify potential fundraising advocates, but if they can, that's even better. That's like growing your network even further. So think about doing this with your team, and ideally every 6 months, because your contacts do keep increasing as you meet new people. But even if you do it once for this upcoming campaign, see the benefits of it, I'm sure you'll naturally start doing it again. So at least for an upcoming upcoming giving moment that you're looking to leverage, just sit with your team and do the network mapping exercise. Okay, great. Now, I won't get into the details of creating a communication strategy for your campaign, because that is a whole workshop in itself. And there are lots of tools available, which, we can send across over email. But let's look at some like basic things to get started. And then we'll go over from some learnings from Giving Tuesday as well. So think about your communication plan in 2 phases. Okay, first is outreach to getters and then outreach to givers. So you need to prepare outreach to both, and it's important to have separate strategies for each of these groups, because you're actually asking them to do different tasks and take on different levels of responsibility during the campaign. So first off, you'll need to approach your getters much earlier and get them prepared. So communication and outreach to the getters need to start at least 2 weeks to a month before the start of the campaign. So you can prepare them, let them know ask them if they're interested, build trust with them, and give them the tools that they need to actually go and advocate on your behalf. And before I talk about like seen change makers and nonprofits use successfully to make the most out of Giving Tuesday, I want to say that you should do what makes sense for your organization, depending on where you are at in your fundraising journey and your bandwidth and your goals, really like the size of your goal as well, right? I'll highlight a few things and hopefully you can get some inspiration out of this. But just want to say that no matter how you decide to participate in Giving Tuesday or what type of communication you decide to do, there are a few key things that we found critical to success. The first, why your organization matters now more than ever. Why does this work matter to the people that you're supporting? Providing hope, connection to your community. So no matter what your goal is, you're going to need a compelling story to help basically pull people in and then make them feel and see themselves as a part of the solution to the problem. So you want to create maybe one iconic story for that full campaign period to make it memorable, or a couple of different ones. And simply telling your audience, you should give because it's Giving Tuesday, you should give because it's Daan Utsav, you should give because you'll get a tax break, is really not good enough, right? To be successful on a day like Giving Tuesday or any giving moment, you have to translate your passion into a powerful story. And you have to kind of say it in a way that generates contagious energy. Basically, what that means is after a person has read your story on email, seen on Instagram, or, put down the phone, they need to reflect on that story for at least a little while after they've heard it or seen it, because that's how you basically get that person to think about it, and then eventually they will take action. So, and that's really how you kind of create a movement around your cause. So you can also use storytelling to reduce the distance between the individual and the cause. Remember, like one of the things that we saw earlier was that to causes more than to organizations. So storytelling is a very powerful way in which you can really reduce that distance between the individual and the cause that they are supporting. So in other words, it doesn't matter how logical your call to action is or how logical your project page is. If donors can't connect emotionally, it really won't work. So think about that. And I'm sure there are lots of trainings on storytelling as well that you'll be able to access. And the second thing is that your campaign needs to be authentic, right? It's okay to be upfront about the need and how your organization might be strained about your campaign. Your supporters really want to know how they can help. So just speak clearly and in your own voice. You don't have to think about, writing fancy words and big jargon. In your own voice and simple words actually really work best. The next is urgency. We spoke about how giving moments are great for rallying new supporters, and it has the benefit of that urgency that's already built into it. So leverage that additional sense of urgency by, maybe you can even think about organizing a match if it's possible. If you have a large donor who's anyway going to give to you, you can consider organizing a match. It's not something that you have to do. And lastly, like use your creativity, break the mold, try something new. I'll give you some examples as well towards the end. And we see a lot of organizations, who have obviously FCRA permissions using Giving Tuesday as a day to fundraise from foreign donors. And Giving Tuesday is pretty massive in the US in particular. So if you're looking at growing diaspora giving or giving from individuals outside of India, I'd encourage you to include Giving Tuesday in your fundraising strategy, because there is always a wave of giving that's anyway going to happen. So you can ride on that wave and take advantage of it. So with any giving moment, think about what makes sense for that giving moment, what is relevant, which audience is relevant for that giving moment before you decide to kind of take advantage of it, leverage it, and join it. The next thing is just want to touch base on email. And, you know, in India, WhatsApp also works really well. But again, you shouldn't spam because it's a very invasive way of reaching out to people. But one of the best converting mechanisms to convert people to give donation is still through email, because if they have actually subscribed to your email list, if people have subscribed to your email list, that means they are already bought into your mission. Otherwise, they wouldn't have subscribed to your email list, right? They already know you and they are actually ready and eager to support you. You just have to ask, and you just have to ask in the right way. And if possible, identify which stage of the relationship they are, and see how they would like to engage with you. You can test with different types of asks instead of asking only for money. And I mentioned this earlier, right? An average individual has about 5 to 7 email newsletters from nonprofits that they've kind of subscribed to. And I think it's probably much lesser in India. So spamming is not good, but if you're running a campaign for a very short period of time, it's okay to send multiple emails on that day or multiple emails on that week, because people have a lot of things that they've subscribed to and it could get lost in the clutter. So if it's for a short period of time, it's okay to send multiple emails, but segmentation is important. What that means is if you have a major donor, right? If someone's given you a large amount of money in the past, you don't want to spam them for a campaign asking for small donations. You want to have a specific segmented email for major donors. The board, you don't want to spam the board with the multiple emails that you're sending on the day. And somebody who's already given you during that day, you don't want to send them another ask in that same day. And you can actually automate a lot of this using CRM systems. Even MailChimp allows you to make sure you don't send an email to someone who has clicked on your email in the past. So a good task, and I'm sure there are lots of new donor management systems as well in India also. So a good task that you can do is to just think about, are there any CRM systems that you can use and which makes sense for your organization as a preparation for upcoming giving moments? And that'll obviously be helpful for you in your fundraising overall as well. I've just put a sample calendar here. Again, do not follow this calendar word to word, but just to show you how you can create your own calendar when it comes to communication for your campaign. If this is a month-long campaign, you can consider sending one email a week, one WhatsApp broadcast in the week, and mix it up with Facebook and Twitter posts. Do a champion or a fundraising getters call once a week. So you can basically mix it up and see what makes sense for you, and depending on the length of the campaign that you're running as well. Now, can anyone tell me what is the biggest secret to successfully leveraging a giving day? So say you've decided this is the giving day that I want to take advantage of, and your giving day might be not in those 2 months. It might be, if you're an organization working on awareness of HIV/AIDS, for instance, it could be World AIDS Day, right? If you're looking at taking advantage of a single day or a week of giving, what is the secret to success? Hamad, I saw you unmute. Do you have an answer?
It's how you build a connect.
How you build a connect? Yes, absolutely. Anything else? It's a very, very simple thing. Anyone else wants to try? Okay. So this is a tip actually from Giving Tuesday's Director of Digital Strategies. And it's the humble but effective calendar invite. So it's literally to get that giving moment you've chosen onto your supporters' calendars, right? As professionals, especially, a lot of us depend on our calendars to remind us what we're supposed to do on a particular day. So if, for example, you're planning now and you want someone to give only on one specific day because there is a specific match or because of some reason, try and see if you can get onto their calendars. But there are some things to keep in mind as well when you do this. Because when you put something on a calendar, you get a notification and it's easy for that person to know, oh, yeah, okay, I'm supposed to give to this organization, or they've asked me to do this today, so I can go do it. But make sure your donors can't see each other's email addresses or modify, so make it private calendar invites. You have to, test it out and make sure you're sending the correct type of calendar invites. And the safest way to do this is using something like add event or calendar.link. They're basically applications that will help you. You can send it in the email and people can, voluntarily add it to their calendars. That's also possible. Because, even with all of us, right, when we see something on the calendar, we're reminded that we're supposed to do that task. So if you are picking a specific day, or if there is a reason why you want someone to give on that specific day, doing calendar invites also work really well. Okay, so just want to quickly talk about some creative ways in which we've seen nonprofits leverage Giving Tuesday, and you can use this again for any giving day. And what's interesting is that some organizations, choose not to ask for funds on Giving Tuesday. And a lot of you are fundraisers here, and you know that fundraising is a lot more than just asking for funds, right? Hamad, you said it's about building connections. And fundraisers constantly need to find ways to engage with their donors and manage those relationships. So we've seen some organizations using Giving Tuesday just to foster donor relationships through non-financial asks, like come and give your time, your expertise, or find some other creative ways to thank their donors. And so we know one organization that actually there are multiple, but one example that I can remember is they called volunteers to come and give their time on that one single day. And all the volunteers needed to do was spend time on their phones, calling up every donor that has donated to them in that full year and just saying thank you. Thank you for donating. Your donation meant a lot to this work. No appeal, no ask, just a thankathon. So volunteers spend their time doing it. So volunteers gave their time, and then they actually used that time that the volunteers gave to engage with past donors. So they didn't use it to give money, but they used it to do a thankathon. Some organizations use Giving Tuesday as a grand finale to a campaign, so that they've been running for a few weeks or a month. So Giving Tuesday becomes like, this is the final day to give. Or it can be the launch of your year-end campaign if you're planning to raise funds till the 31st of December. So it works like a great bookend for a campaign if you're running a longer campaign. And the other thing which is super interesting is collaboration. I don't know if any of you here have tried this, but there's an example here on the left side, which is Gardens Project and School of Adoptive Agriculture. So they are, in a traditional way, if you look at it, they're competing nonprofits, right? They both work on the same, similar cause, similar geography, and they both needed volunteers. But instead of competing on Giving Tuesday, what they did was they ran a coalition campaign. So they ran a campaign where they both partnered with each other and said, we anyway both need volunteers. Let's do it together, amplify the volume. And they planned this day out where, volunteers spent half a day in one organization and the next half in another organization. And they like pushed out the ask and appeal together so that noise around that, the volume on that was also amplified. So a great way to think about it is, can you co-fundraise with an organization? Can you collaborate with another organization and run a volunteer day to engage with donors? So think about creative ways in which you can collaborate as well. That really removes that sense of competition as well. And then another interesting one, which you can see here from Help International, is fundraising for another cause on Giving Tuesday, right? You're fundraising for your own cause the entire year. Do you want to just like shake things up and think of another nonprofit that may be needing help? Say this one day, we are going to spend all our time fundraising for that one organization, or volunteer. Don't fundraise. Say, let's all go as a team and volunteer with another organization. And this is what we're doing for Giving Tuesday. And then you talk about that on social media, in your newsletter. And that's really another way to, build relationships with nonprofits and bring in that abundance mindset that we spoke about earlier. Then the other thing you can think about doing is hosting a challenge with the ambassadors that you have. One fun activity that happened in Malaysia was a spicy noodle challenge that university students organized for a cause. And what they basically said was, every time they get closer to their goal, they will start eating spicier noodles. So as they get closer to the goal, the noodles get spicier and spicier. So they hosted the spicy noodle challenge to support a particular nonprofit. So you can even think of something fun, especially if you're doing it just for a single day or a week, that you can engage your fundraising advocates and getters in. Especially if it's like millennials and Gen Z, you'll get a lot more engagement with that. Again, I won't go into the details of how you can use data for fundraising here, but I just want to quickly touch on some very simple ways you can use data to support your campaign and when you're especially trying to do it for a specific giving moment. Even if you follow like 3 of these to start off with, it's going to be great, right? First is, setting measurable goals, which we already spoke about, but actually measuring it. So at the end of the campaign, measuring whether you actually met your goals or not is super helpful, because you will know what worked, what did not work. Was it worth my time to be investing in this campaign? Should I have done something else? Should I have done something different? So setting goals and measuring it has a lot of different benefits. Second is organizing an AAR, or an after action review. And internally in my team, we do this for every project, not just fundraising, or for other projects as well, or an event that we've organized. We always have an after action review where we all sit together and think about what was expected to happen, what actually happened, what could have been done better. What went well and what could have been done better, right? And even if you answer those 2 last questions, what went well and what could have been done better, that will give you so much of rich information, because you're sitting together as a team. And in this, you can even include your board members, your fundraising advocates, maybe 1 or 2 donors, and ask them in the messaging what motivated you to give. And feed that into your after action review, so that next year when you do this, or the next time you choose to do a campaign or leverage a giving moment, you have all of this information and you're not starting from scratch. You from your learnings, this is what worked and this is what did not work. And the next one, which is super important, but sometimes we forget to do, is to add the new donors that you've managed to get through your campaign into your database. If it's a digital database, perfect. And if you don't have a database yet, especially if you're running a campaign and spending time and energy on that, make sure you create it and you engage with those donors through the whole year in ways more than one, so that they are engaged and they're not spammed. And if you anything else that you can think of other than these 3, how you can use data to learn and leverage giving moments that are coming up, or when you're running a campaign, which is even outside of giving moments. Anybody think of any other ideas? Please put them into the chat box so we can all, again, learn and share. Okay. And if you want even more resources to help you create success for Giving Tuesday or any other giving moment, we do have a lot of resources on the Giving Tuesday website. So you can just go to givingtuesday.org, click on how to participate. And there's a click on nonprofits piece if you are a nonprofit, and you'll see a lot of toolkits in there. And the Satwa team will also upload the toolkit for nonprofits onto the India Partner Network site, so you can access it from there as well. We'll also send you an email with a workbook that you can use with a lot of the learnings that were shared during this presentation, and a lot of other things as well. And you can share that with your team, whoever is actually going to be engaged in running a campaign with you. Okay. So are you ready for leveraging an upcoming giving moment? How are you feeling right now? Do you feel ready? Do you feel like this is too much? Do you feel excited? Anybody? Any thoughts? Excited? Oh, that's great to hear. And how do you really know, right, if you're ready? I've just put down 4 things to think about to see if you're ready. But obviously, there's a lot more to think about. But firstly is, do you have a champion? The champion can be you. It can be a board member, volunteers, another staff member. But you need one champion to say, yes, this is something that we want to try out. We want to leverage at least one giving moment that's coming up, or do a campaign during the festive season, or maybe next year. So you need to have one champion who is basically pushing for that idea and supporting the idea. You need to have some goals. I'm hoping a lot of you have created the goals. Some of you shared it on the chat box, so I know you have the goals. But set some goals. It can be new donors. It can be expanded mailing list. It can be recurring donors, new advocates. But set a specific goal, because if you don't have a goal and you then participate in a campaign, you really don't know how to measure success, right? And you don't know what you're working towards. So set some creative goals for your campaign. And then you can build a team. So you, one more person from the fundraising team, one other staff member from the program team, maybe one, if you don't have a large team, maybe a board member can join you, a volunteer can join you, one past donor can join you. So create a team, and this team is going to work with you during the time of that campaign alone. And the last one is you have to be willing to try new things and learn from the things that don't really work, right? You can start slowly and you may not hit your goals the first year, which is fine. But trying, learning, and if you do the 3 things that were shared in the previous slide around learning from data, there will actually be huge dividends that you get in the long run. So especially if you're looking at getting into online fundraising and crowdfunding, leveraging a giving moment is a great time to test and experiment and see if this is for your organization and if you're ready for it. See something in the chat box, good and excited. Okay. Okay, and many of you might be wondering what platform to use if you want to leverage a giving moment. And honestly, you can pick any platform of your choice that works best for you. I just put down some things to consider. You might already be using some platforms which are working well. Stick with that if it's working well for you. But some things to think about is firstly, don't look at only the fee structure, right? Don't look at, okay, this is 5%, this is 10%, so let's go with the 5%. Think about the tools and features that platform can offer you. Is this offering a one-time fundraising opportunity or an ongoing fundraising opportunity? What does my organization really need? What type of tax advantages is this platform able to provide? And then think about the reputation of that platform itself, right? Ask other peers in the sector, ask other nonprofit leaders, what platforms have you used? Have you heard about this one? Does it really work well? That's the best way to find out about which platform to use. Then see if the platform also has its own reach. Are they able to get you new donors that you don't have access to? So overall, look at the bigger picture as opposed to just one of these points when you're making a decision. I've just put down names of some Indian platforms that exist at the moment that you can take advantage of. Let me know if I've missed any that you are currently using and you found useful. You can put it into the chat box so others can see it as well. Of course, there are many international platforms as well. Again, you don't have to use a platform. You can do this on your own website just by leveraging your social media or your email. And Danamojo, of course, has a payment solution that you can use, which can be integrated into your website, or you may already have another payment solution. It's fine. But just wanted to give you a sense of the different platforms that exist if you want to take advantage of one of them. Anything that I missed, any platform that I missed, do add them into the chat box. Okay. In closing, I mean, of course, we'll open up for questions, but I just want to urge you to reframe your thinking about your job as raising funds for your mission. It's not only that, right? Your job is really to mobilize human beings, mobilize a groundswell of support for your cause, and you're actually creating a movement. You're creating a movement of like-minded, passionate individuals. And giving moments like Giving Tuesday or any other giving moment are actually great time to galvanize this energy and this generosity and direct it towards the change that you're seeking to create. So on behalf of the entire Giving Tuesday team, and I can say for the Satwa team as well, I'd like to just offer my gratitude to all of you and for being part of this social movement that we're all part of to create really a more just, generous world through the work that each of you are doing. So thank you, and I'll open up for questions. I'll stop sharing my screen as well.
Thank you. It's a very nice presentation, ran us through all the steps. Now, coming to the nitty-gritty of actually using those platforms for online thing and all that. Some of them have commercials and so on, right? So I come from a government-funded institution. I can't get into commercials. Is there a way you can exempt government-funded institution and say, see, for example, we can give you highest tax rate, we are FCRA exempt. FCRA doesn't apply to us. The tax itself doesn't apply. So much facility. Everywhere I hear FCRA is a demon, devil, and everything, but nobody approaches institutions that are even exempt from them. We have a good number of projects, even in COVID, non-COVID. No, nobody approached. We went around and raised $1 million or something like that. That's our own effort. But so somewhere I see there is a disconnect.
Yeah. Ram, sorry. Go ahead.
Therefore, people are only looking at some very specific thing of their interest in a specific organization of their interest and complaining that they are not, the FCR is tough or this is tough or that is tough. I don't think that should be the only way. Should look at alternatives to achieve the same goal. That should be the objective. So is there a way you can communicate this kind of thinking? So I just wanted your thoughts.
Sure. Sorry, someone else wanted to add something? Okay. So I don't represent any of those platforms. It was just to show you different platforms that exist. So I can't talk for the platforms to say if the percentage can be cut out for specific nonprofits or not. That will be a conversation that you'll have to have with any specific platform that you want to and have a relationship with. But what I will say is you don't have to use a platform to run a campaign or to leverage a giving moment. You can do this on your own website, right? If you have a payment solution on your website, you can do it. And you don't have to leverage a giving moment to raise money. You can use it to do something else as well. And I know your question is larger and outside of just giving moments, but I don't unfortunately represent any of those platforms, so I won't be able to answer for them. But if anybody here represents any of the platforms, would be good to hear from you. Or anybody else has a response to what Mr. Ram has shared.
No, I got the platform part because you don't represent that. The other part, I've asked a lot of people, even KPMG, these people who keep saying, webcasts on FCRA. I said, nobody has ever approached me. I'm completely exempt. No one has said, here is a cause for which I would like to give. And there are organizations which don't require FCRA. And no one has said, can you tell me an institution which is exempt from FCRA and then I can give it to them? Even though we are doing the same work. COVID is a classic example, right? First and foremost, the government funded institution only worked on it. Be it for RT-PCR testing, be it for genome analysis, and so on and so forth. Nobody came and from anywhere saying, these are already exempt institutions, you can happily go there, get the same job done. Nobody. So why is this, very narrow way of looking at certain acts and the ways of, proposing that this is becoming a hindrance to doing non-profit work?
Yeah. Ram, I'm really sorry, but that's outside of my scope to respond to that question. It is a very loaded and heavy question, and I'm not in a position to be able to answer that. That is a very big question. And if any other nonprofit in the room wants to respond, I'm happy to open the stage. And Ashwini, over to you as well from Satwa.
Thanks, Kavita. And Ram, like Kavita said, we could maybe have that discussion separately as well. But to the remaining participants out here, in case you all have any questions, the floor is open. I think we could also, take your questions and you could directly ask Kavita. Please feel free to unmute or even leave your question on the chat. We'll pick that up. We'll also put a link to the feedback form. It will be really helpful for us as well as Kavita to hear your thoughts on how the session has gone so far. And in case you'd like us to conduct more such sessions in the future, just filling out that form would be helpful. And any questions?
I don't have a question, Ashwini. I just wanted to thank you, Satwa team, and Anita, right? Hello?
Kavita.
Kavita, I'm so sorry.
No
I just
worries.
wanted to thank you, Kavita, and you and Satwa team for organizing such a great webinar, because in my opinion, it is a cookbook where you shared a step-by-step guide so that how anyone with limited resources can run a successful fundraising campaign and generate funds for their organizations. So happy to be part of this conversation, and I sincerely thank you so much. And I would love to attend future seminars like this. And definitely, you have shared the link for feedback form. I'm going to fill it up right after this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. And thank you for being a really engaged participant as well.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ahmed. The resources, I think that Kavita shared as well. And in case there are any additional resources, we will put that in an email and put it out, and also put it up on our India Partner Network platform. So it would be great if you all could actually explore the platform, because there are a lot of resources out there, and any other upcoming events as well would be a part of that. We'll share the link to register, sign up, as well as explore the platform on the email. But again, pausing in case any questions. Else, we'll also be happy to wrap up early. But I think this is a chance we ought to directly ask Kavita right now. Could also raise your hand or directly unmute. I think, Kavita, there were a lot of practical insights. I'm sure the participants found it super helpful.
Thank you so much, Ashwini, and thank you so much, everyone. I can see a few messages in the chat box, so hopefully it was helpful. But like Ashwini said, we'll also share the deck and a workbook that will be helpful for you when you're thinking about, any upcoming giving moment that you want to leverage, or generally if you want to run a campaign. But I think I may have explained it in the presentation already. Leveraging a giving moment actually will just push you further and help you in the effort that you're going to put in as an organization anyway. So do consider leveraging any one of the moments that are coming up.
There's one question on the chat. By Sanskriti, she says she's just started her journey in the fundraising domain. Any quick tips for income?
Welcome to this journey, Sanskriti. It's going to be an exciting one. And I'll open it up to anybody else as well who wants to add. I'm sure there are lots of fundraisers here. But some things that I have found beneficial personally is just, I had to change my mindset because in the beginning, it was hard for me to ask for funds because I, in my head, thought that I was asking money for myself, right? And you feel strange doing that. So just changing a mindset and realizing that you're actually asking for money for a cause that the person you're asking should equally care about, because this has direct implication to the world that we're living in. We're trying to solve big problems. And changing that mindset really changes the way you ask and the way you narrate your story and the way you tell your story. So that has been very helpful for me very early on. That's the first thing that I would say. And second is, fundraising isn't just about asking for money. It's really about engaging a community and building a community around your cause. So always think of different ways in which you can engage with that community. If you're asking for money all the time, obviously people will unfollow you, people will unsubscribe from whatever you're doing. See if there are other ways in which you can engage them through the year, and use specific periods when you will actually ask for money. Don't shy away from asking for money, but be strategic about it. I'll just say those two things. And if anyone else has any tips for Sanskriti, please do share as well.
Thanks, Kavita. Any other questions? Okay, but in case any questions, please feel free to write to us at partnernetwork.satwa.co.in. And Kavita, in case there's any email ID that they can write to, we'll also put that up in our email that goes out, so they could directly reach out to you and maybe just soaking in all the insights for now. There might be many more questions that will come up once they start working on the information that you've shared. So I think they will be able to get back then.
Yeah, I've put it into the chat box as well.
But thank you all once again. Thank you, Kavita, and thank you to all the participants for being such a sport, staying throughout the session as well as asking your questions. Yeah, we log off for now, but we will follow up this meeting with an emailer, and look forward to seeing you in our other sessions that we conduct. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Kavita. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Same to
very
you.
much. Thank you.